Hello and welcome to the Walk Off. I'm Scott Belford, joined by the best co-host in the biz, Adam Mack. He is back, and we did not get a chance to do our Friday episode yesterday, so we're doubling down. We're gonna do it today, Saturday. I know that there isn't quite the amount of time before the game to get this in, but away we go. Mega news coming down yesterday with Jimmy Garcia being moved to the Seattle Mariners for Jonathan Clase. Of course, he's the major piece to this. They did get a low A catcher. Stewart, I think is his last name. We've got it all up and ready to go here, so we're going to definitely get into that. Yesterday, Ernie Clement with a walk-off hit to give a W to probably the last time Yusei Kikuchi will pitch for this Toronto Blue Jays team. Ernie Clement.
Asterisk this season.
This season, exactly.
Maybe a trade and re-sign.
Would you be into
Could
that?
happen.
I think I'd be into
I'd
that.
love it. I'd for sure be
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah, me too. I was impressed with the return. I know that when it comes to prospects, it's just a cross your fingers and it's lottery tickets. But I was impressed with the return on the Jimmy Garcia trade. We'll very curious to see what Yusei Kikuchi garners.
Mm-hmm.
Ernie Clement, pretty clutch when he doesn't have to pitch, eh?
Hey, he's a knuckleballer. So you know how we
He's a
feel about
knuckleballer.
knuckleballers. So
Man, talk about I'm almost glad we're doing this Saturday morning instead of Friday morning. I was so fired up about how brutal that Thursday game was. I was just like, I'm going to sit and watch this. Like, I watched until the sixth inning, dude. Till the sixth inning. I finally shut it off because I was like, well, if these guys don't give a fuck, why should I? Like, I haven't seen a more lifeless game in so long. And it's hard not to understand and to get it, with so much question
it's
marks
tough,
surrounding
man.
it.
It's tough to not be lifeless. Like right now, this is the first time in like 4 or 5 seasons where going into a trade deadline, I think most guys would like to be traded. Like, you think back to 2019, 2020, um, going into the trade deadlines, and a lot of guys like, oh, we're on a contender. I don't want to get traded to the Pirates this year. Like,
Mhm.
I know we're bringing pieces in. I hope I'm not one of the guys to go to Miami. Like, I want to be here for this playoff run or
Truly.
or whatever. And it does really kind of feel like, oh, all right, send me to the Dodgers. That's fine.
I mean, listening to that press conference with Chris Bassett after that 13-0 loss, dude. I mean, number
Oh.
one, incredibly genuine moment from the Hound, where even he was like, "Yeah, like we suck.
Mhm.
This is not good. It's not a good feeling. There's a ton of question marks about where people are going to be. The line that really stood out to me is like, I don't think there's one person with clean hands right now. I really don't. And of course, he's talking about where this Blue Jays organization is at. He was asked about the front office and the coaching staff and the players and where the blame lies. And it was a very genuine answer of, yeah, it's all of us. And
Yeah.
this team is not good right now. I mean, nice little win yesterday against Texas. And I mean, I guess with it being possibly Yusei's last game as a Blue Jay in 2024, anyways, nice way to send him off, I guess. He got a good little applause as he was coming off the field. He didn't have an overly crisp game. And I don't think that's going to affect his value at all. I think these organizations watching Yusei Kikuchi know that the writing is on the wall and he's well aware that he is being shipped out for the biggest package that the Jays can find.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a contender and you're in on the Yusei Kikuchi market, you're not expecting a guy that's going to give you Cy Young caliber over August and September, right? You're just looking for a hard throwing lefty who can maybe slot into the playoff rotation and like mix things up, right?
Mhm.
And then you're just hoping that he's good when he needs to be. But that's kind of the case with any pitchers that are going to be available, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, you
so
look at who else is out there. Jack Flaherty is on the market. I don't think he's any better than Yusei Kikuchi. Garrett Crochet has come out and basically submarined any value he has. And actually, let's talk about this, Adam. This is one thing I didn't even have on our topics list. But Garrett Crochet actually came out and so this is from John Heyman. Garrett Crochet plan with the White Sox is to pitch normal workload as a starter until the end of the regular season. If traded, would need an extension to pitch in October. Of course, the playoffs are not paid, and he has basically come out and said he won't play without pay. He won't move to the bullpen as well and will not take any break. Views starter routine as best for health. What are your thoughts on this? Like, because there's two kind of ways of thinking about it, right? Of like he's really screwing the team over, and also so many players in baseball and in sports in general want to be involved in a contender, want to play in the playoffs. You know, there is that sense of pride about going as far as you can. Obviously, Garrett Crochet kind of Anthony Rendoning it right now, right? He's like, pay me my money. I'm playing with the White Sox. We're god awful. If I'm going to go somewhere and I need to play in the playoffs, I want some security and I want an extension. Do you think that's fair?
okay, so I have mixed feelings on this. Feeling number one is like, yeah, I'm pro player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do what's best for you. All that being said, I don't think this is best for him. I don't think this public stance as a competitor is good for his pay. Like I don't, I don't see however this plays out, whether he's traded or not, whatever payday he may have been in line for this off season, I don't think it goes up after saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether he gets traded or not, if he goes into he's a free agent at the end of this season,
Yes, sir.
throw out a number that you think he's going to get on, let's say, a 2-year deal.
That's a really good question. I don't know.
Let's just
Let's
call
let's
let's just
let's
call it
go.
10 million a year.
Yeah, sure.
Just whatever. Just by saying that, if I'm a team who was looking at him and he was on my list of like, oh yeah, let's go give this guy 20 million over 2 years. And then I hear that statement, I go, maybe not. Like, because I don't want to give any money to the guy that's not a competitor and doesn't want to like win first and foremost. That's just
I
me. I don't know.
I do I do feel the same way, although there is a little bit of me that looks at all the injuries that has gone on over the last year and a half and how frequent they're happening and the fact that there isn't pay with the playoffs and that he is a free agent at the end of this, and I understand him not wanting to risk injury at this point
Mhm.
before free agency. YouTube, let us know. Like, drop your comments below. Where are you at on this whole Garrett Crochet refusing to
I like
play in the playoffs?
I get it. And I'm not saying it's a bad point of view
Dance.
or
Yeah.
stance for him to have. I'm just saying that like there's a difference between like feeling that way and coming out publicly to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like that's almost just a well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it kind of a thing.
Do you
Like
think do you think it might work? Do you think there's a team out there that could look at him and be like, you know what, maybe we will acquire him from the White Sox and maybe we will then pay him an extension price?
I don't know, man. It's he's kind of sewered his trade
I,
value
I feel like
to
he's
stay
Seward
with the
is.
White Sox.
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It's a weird stance to take. I mean,
And there's people saying it'll violate his contract. That is incorrect, by the way. He does have the option to not play in the playoffs.
like, wouldn't you just take the trade, and then if you didn't want to play in the playoffs or you didn't want to move to the bullpen,
Be
wouldn't you
like, my
just
arm
say,
is sore.
"Yeah,
Get an
my fucking elbow's
MRI.
sure
Yeah.
tight." Like, I don't know.
I
Go out
want
there
to,
and throw 4 pitches straight in the dirt and be like, "Ah, fucking my fingernail, man." I don't know.
yeah. I got a fourth opinion coming that we need to
Yeah,
get done before I can pitch. Yeah. Like, you'd think
like,
that there's better ways to go about doing this. I don't know, though. Maybe it works. Maybe pitching is thin enough out there on the open market with the amount of contenders there are and how few sellers there are. Maybe there is a team out there that's like, you know what, we need a pitcher in the future anyways. We like what we've seen out of Crochet.
what are his
It's a weird
stats
one.
anyways? How good are they? Yeah, 307 ERA.
Yeah, he's been good.
It's
And I
been
mean, on a
good.
team that's better than the White Sox, it's probably what's his FIP? Is that easily available?
Um, his FIP is 2.3.
Okay, so he does have a
Yeah.
better FIP than he does an ERA, which does go to show you that
Yeah.
he could be a very dominant pitcher. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. One thing I will say with Garrett Crochet coming out and saying this is it's good news for the Toronto Blue Jays because if they do decide
Ups the
to
value
move
on Kikuchi.
Kikuchi, it's going to increase it. And you know what? Even more so if they decide to move a guy like Chris Bassett, which I think is unlikely with all the lip service they're giving on competing in 2025. But maybe there is a scenario out there where the deal is sweet enough they do move on for Bassett with a plan to, hit the free agent market in the offseason and fill that hole that way. I don't know. There's no internal options. That's the only thing, right? Like you're going to be betting on Alec Manoah to come back in May. You're going to be betting on Ricky Tiedemann staying healthy and on top of staying healthy, being ready to increase the workload that he hasn't been able to build up over the last couple years with these injuries he's had, right? Like his
Yeah.
innings are going to be limited, even if he is 100% healthy next year. And the truth is, I honestly believe, and I know I mentioned this about a month ago, I think it's a countdown to TJ for Ricky. Getting a third
Yeah.
opinion is not a good thing. It means that he did not like the first two opinions, which were probably yikes, you need surgery.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. Third opinion isn't good. Um, how would you feel if the third opinion comes back? Yeah, you're fine. Pitch through it.
I
I
mean,
don't like
I know it's why I say it's like it feels like a countdown to when he eventually decides he is going to get surgery.
what if the third opinion just prescribes him rice? It's just like rest, ice, compress, and elevate,
Yeah,
and then you'll be fine.
yes. Yes.
Like, there's no way that just solves it. There's not just like Tommy John. Oh, I don't like that. Tommy John. Oh, I don't like that. Rice.
Yeah.
Sounds good. See you guys in April. Like,
See you in
or
April.
February, I guess.
That's what's scary, man, as a Blue Jays fan, is how badly this team is going to need him in the rotation in the upcoming year or two. And if this is just going to continue to delay him being able to build up until eventually he just needs to face the music and decide that he is going to do the surgery. And then we're like, instead of what, a year of recovery, we're now 2 years because we spent a bunch
It
of
lines
time.
up perfectly with our 2027 start to compete again window.
Yeah.
He can be our failed starter converted into our closer by then. Him and Nate Pearson. Nate Pearson will be the setup man. Ricky Tiedemann will be our closer. Alec Manoah will be our pitching coach.
And then will we have a bullpen? It's so funny, man. Like the Blue Jays bullpen, which began
hold on, question. 2027, are you tuning in to the Alec Manoa podcast?
Yeah, probably.
Uh,
Uh, yeah, probably. I don't know. It's a good
Alec
question.
Manoa's baseball is what it's called. Alec
Yeah,
Manoa's baseball, the K in there. But
yeah.
the K is backwards for the strikeout looking.
With special guest, fresh off of Tommy John surgery, Ricky Tiedemann.
Oh my God.
So the
I'm
Blue
so
Jay,
fucking down on this team. Sorry, dude.
no, and what I'm about to say is not going to improve the mood, but the Blue Jays bullpen, which began Thursday, ranked
Hmm.
last in the American League in ERA and last in Major League Baseball in both the American and the National League in wins above replacement WAR, allowed 9 earned runs on Thursday, and then, as if that's not enough, this is easily the most unexpected, disappointing aspect of the 2024 Blue Jays season because the bullpen is 26% worse than league average and the worst in franchise history by a lot. And we just traded our most consistent
Hmm.
bullpen piece in Jimmy Garcia.
Our dot of trust.
Chad Green has looked really good, and it's starting to look more and more like he could be on the move as well. Of course, he's owed another couple million on this season and then 10.5 next year. Maybe the Blue Jays decide that they can allocate those funds more efficiently to bolster a bullpen that is already god awful and going to need to be scratched at the end of the season and kind of retooled in a major way. Bullpens are weird. Like
Hmm.
the idea of the Blue Jays bullpen being good next year wouldn't shock me in the least, man.
Of
It's
course.
it,
So
like
volatile.
it's so volatile, and we have had some major um, bumps in the road when it comes to injury and just performance wise with Tim Meza and Eric Swanson. Who saw that coming? I mean,
Yeah, you never know. Hagen Danner all of a sudden is healthy
yeah.
next year and throwing 103, and you're like, holy fuck. And then
Hmm.
freaking yeah, it's just
A few
it's weird.
savvy moves where you're like betting on bounce backs and you get them, like,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, a throw-in piece in a trade turns out to be your Tim Mesa, and it's just whatever. Yeah, it's but that's the Ross Atkins sell job right there. Is like, hey, maybe we have a top five bullpen next year. That means we're only two starting pitchers and positive regression from Bo and George away from being a contender again. Like,
well,
ugh.
let's talk this Jimmy Garcia trade and kind of break
Okay.
it down and maybe try and figure out what sort of packages we can get back for a Chad Green, for a Yusei Kikuchi, and maybe even a Chris Bassett. It is really interesting to see what has happened around the league. I know that AJ Puck was traded to the Diamondbacks from the Marlins, and the Marlins actually got a fairly good return. De Los Santos was the AAA guy that came back, and he's putting up huge home runs right now. I was reading about how the Marlins just don't believe in this guy, and that's one of the reasons why he was a guy that they gave up here. Of course, there's Marlins fans that are like, "Great, we just traded the next Barry Bonds." You know how fans are, but
Reasonable.
yeah, sorry, Arizona fans are like that. Yeah, so it is interesting that there are high ranking prospects available for some of these bullpen arms. I mean, even
Hmm.
the Blue Jays return on Jimmy Garcia, right? Jonathan Clase. So let's dive into Jonathan Clase a little bit here, buddy. I know that you've got his stats up here. He is now the number 7 ranked prospect in the Blue Jays system. 22 years old, spent most of the season at AAA. He did make his major league debut this year. He's got 10 home runs in AAA, 26 stolen bases, and he's got the 97th percentile sprint speed. So this guy is lightning fast. And I think that that's probably his major tool right now. What else do you have on Jonathan? Not Jonathan, Jonathan Classe.
Uh, Plays every outfield position, switch hitter.
Something that
Just
this
turned just turned
something that this
22.
team doesn't have much of is a switch hitter. You know, like outside of Stuart Baroa, there's nobody.
Yeah, I mean he's the top get in the trade.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like it. I mean, there's upside there. I don't know.
The age is encouraging, right? 22 years old.
It's the sweet spot. This is what you want back, I guess. You don't want 26-year-old prospects, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily want 18-year-old prospects
No.
either. Just too far away.
And the fact he made his major league debut this year, Adam, is pretty good. You know, so you have an idea. He knows what the next step is. It's like all of these guys like Leo Jimenez, right? Where they're getting to experience the big leagues in a scenario where it doesn't really matter all that much. And I think that Jonathan Classe is going to be given some runway with this Blue Jays. I think he's going to be called up. I don't think that they're going to let him sit in AAA. I think they're going to try and continue his development on the big league team. We'll see how that plays out or if it plays out.
Um, you think he plays for the Jays this year?
I think so, yes.
Um,
Especially with Kiermaier retiring, like you can, I don't know. KK can sit on the bench a bit more.
yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited about him, but not like fuck yeah, fist pump excited, but
Yeah.
like I'm encouraged.
Yeah.
Like if this again, I'm just advocating for full sell mode here. So if we can just get half a dozen Jonathans,
Mm-hmm.
I feel good.
Do you
I'm
think
not
that this?
confident that he's going to be like our starting corner outfielder next year. I don't feel that
Ooh,
good about him,
no, no,
but
and I think he'll have his bumps in the road, obviously, as most 22-year-olds do when it comes to development. But he is going to be given some rope to play in, especially with the fact he can play all three outfield positions. I think that they are going to find reps for him at some point. Um, it is intriguing that the Blue Jays liked him enough to jump the trade deadline by 4 days. You know, like they weren't seeing what else was out there. They were like, okay, we're all right with this. Do you think Chad Green, even though he is owed substantially more money, can get a similar return?
I don't know. I mean, this is always my least favorite part of podcasting is trade speculation
Yeah,
because time and time again,
it's
we're
so
and I
tough.
when I say we, I mean the
The
fan
general, yeah,
podcast community, even like the experts, they're so far out to lunch
yeah,
from where these teams actually value their guys, and then you never know. I mean, one factor is how do we value your prospects A, B, and C, versus how does that team value those exact prospects? And then the third factor is the bidding war and the panic of it all, where it's like,
yeah.
oh shit, like if we don't overpay, we're not going to get them, or teams just feel fine, or a third team sweeps in and ups the price at the last minute. Like, so it's just such a crapshoot to be like, well, is Chad Green going to get more or less? I don't
Depends how
know.
desperate a team is at that point, I guess. Like that
Right.
is the thing, is more and more guys come off the. When I say more and more guys, I mean quality relievers. As more and more quality relievers who can actually handle high leverage situations come off the board, there are going to be teams who just are kind of put in a corner where if they want to bolster their bullpen, they're going to have to pay an elite, an extreme price, and maybe the Jays can benefit from that. It
I
really is
will
a
say,
shit shoot.
I will say with Jonathan Clase, 19 games of the Mariners, 3 stolen bases
Yep.
in just 19 games. That puts him on a pace of 25 stolen bases over 162.
Hmm.
Blue Jays leading stolen base getter is George Springer, who has just 10 through 96 games. So he's on pace for like 16.
Hmm.
So the speed of this prospect would be helpful to a team that has no interest in stealing bases.
And that is one of the things with this Toronto Blue Jays organization as we watch stolen bases go up substantially around the league. It is not with this team, right? Like they have not put extra resources into that aspect of the game. And maybe with a guy like Clase, it does open up that avenue for them.
Man, I watched this interview the other day with this base stealing or base running advisor expert. I don't know what
Mhm.
their role is, but basically they work with like high school teams and college teams to like improve base stealing. Like these are like national championship level teams that, spend money on professional coaching. Anyways, he did a breakdown. He just worked with oh some high school in like Nevada, and they went from like 13 stolen bases last season to like 147 this season and like broke state records and stuff, right? But basically, he breaks it down as like the analytics of base stealing, and like you have the delivery time, like from delivery to plate of X pitcher, right? Like each pitcher has whatever their number is, 1.045 seconds, and then the
Mhm.
pop time of the catcher, right? So you've got all that data going into the game. You know what the pop time of the catcher is, the delivery time of the pitcher, it's 3.76 seconds, right?
Mhm.
And then you just time every player on your team with like a dead sprint of 81 feet because the average leadoff is like 9 feet, he says. So what's your 81-foot sprint speed? If it's less than the combined times of the pitcher catcher, you just go, it's a free base. Like it's a
Yeah.
guarantee. It's mathematically like there's as long you factor in the like 0.025 reaction speed or whatever. And he's like, as long as you're under it, he's like, there's not, you can just tell the first baseman, I'm going, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, unless I trip and fall, I win. And then they just do that, right? So it'd be interesting to see um, if the Blue Jays will ever start fucking stealing bases
Well, we'll see. I think there's a philosophy change coming with
with the new
hopefully
GM.
a new GM and a new coaching staff. I mean, that's the truth. I don't know. Like, I can't see Ross Atkins leading this franchise after this season. I just don't know how they can justify it. But I mean,
I've been surprised that base stealing has gone up amongst superstars.
mhm.
Just I I think the old mentality was you don't let your Mike Trout steal bases, even though he could steal 40, because the risk of jamming a thumb or your wrist or whatever, potentially taking him out of the lineup for a week or 2 weeks is not worth the extra base. But to see like Acuna Jr. stealing as many as he steals, and guys like Ellie De La Cruz, who's fucking stealing at will,
Yeah,
like just unstoppable.
yeah, it's crazy
It's
what Ellie's doing.
it's cool to see. It's cool to see, and I really didn't think teams would want their young superstars risking injury the way they are, but guys haven't been getting hurt,
Mhm.
and it's cool to see. I think base stealing is one of the most exciting parts of the game. Like a guy
I
that
think
can get a single and then steal second, steal third, and then steal home on a wild pitch. Like fuck yeah.
I hate giving Major League Baseball credit, but I will give credit to how they have gone about increasing safety when it comes to stealing bases. I mean, obviously, there's the Chase Utley
Oven
rule
mitts
that they
for
put
everyone.
into effect years ago, right? Where you can't just plow into the guy at second base anymore. You got to give the guy the lane. The
Yeah.
bigger bases, I think, makes an absolute difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the game's just changing too, to be a little bit more conscious of not putting yourself in these injurable
Mm-hmm.
moments. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been fun to watch. I mean, Ellie De La Cruz is a great example. This
Yeah.
is a superstar with the Reds. I mean, he was on pace to steal 100 bases. He's not going to hit it this year. He's probably a lot closer to 80. That's still mind-blowing. That's still like so many more stolen bases than we are accustomed to watching. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
with you, Adam. What a fun aspect to the game.
Yeah.
Okay, so some stuff going on Thursday. We watched Dylan Cease of the Padres throw a no-hitter, and it's his first no-hitter. And it was kind of cool, too, because Luis Arraez, so Dylan Cease years ago threw 8 2/3 no-hit innings, broken up by Luis Arraez with 1 out to go. And in this particular game, they were playing Luis Arraez again. Of course, on a
Nice.
different team, but Luis Arraez was the last out of Dylan Cease's no-hitter, who then grabbed the ball and brought it out to him and shook his hand, kind of like a nice little moment of sportsmanship where he's like, all right, I
Nice.
may have got you last time, but you did manage to pull it off. It's just like little moments like that in baseball. That's why it's the most romantic sport. And sometimes the baseball gods just line it up like that, you know? Like, what are the
Mm-hmm.
chances that Luis Arraez is the last out of his no hitter twice in a row and that it falls the other way this time? Just very impressive. And I know we hit a point a couple years ago, Adam, where no nos, they were happening so often, we were like, I don't even care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, they changed the ball again, and things have changed again, and now we haven't seen one in a while. Do you still give pretty good credit for a no-no? I mean,
I
considering
don't know.
pitchers don't even throw 9 innings normally anymore.
I mean, yeah, I guess like pitching 9 is impressive, whether it's a
Yeah,
no-no or not.
yeah,
Complete game, I think, gets me just as hard. Um, yeah, it's cool. Good for him. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm like, yeah, it's nice for him, I guess. All right, let's wrap up on our old friend Reese Maguire, who I think I was saying it before we hit record. It really did feel like his past had he'd broken on through to the other side, right? He'd left it behind him. Jays fans had had their fun with it. And then when he went to the Red Sox fans found out about it and they had their fun with it. And I mean, obviously, this whole pleasuring himself at a parking lot scenario happened 4 years ago.
Yep.
Then he winds up getting into a shouting match with proud Canadian Cal Quantrill of the Colorado Rockies, and he brings it up, right? They're in a yelling match, and he's like, "Oh, go jerk off in a parking lot, you effing loser," something like that, something to that kind of effect, and this goes viral, right? Major League Baseball fan bases that had no idea what happened are now being filled in on Reese Maguire's great shame, I think you would say,
Yep.
right? His great shame. If he was to
Yep.
rank them, that's got to be number one.
Yep.
I mean, if there's a great shame that is ranked higher than that, great job not letting it out, Reese. You've done a much better job
Yes.
keeping that one to yourself than this one.
Yes.
I almost feel for him. If it wasn't such a stupid Like, just such a stupid. And I think I brought this up too before we hit record, but I love Cal Quantrill. Like, it's just like you got one bullet in the chamber and he just went to it right away. He's just like, you can't talk shit to
Yeah.
me. I know this about you. And it's like, oh, okay. Bringing out the A bomb right out of the gate. Do you think Reese Maguire will ever live this down?
Um, I'm honestly impressed that he still has a baseball career at the
Yeah.
major league level. Like, honestly, tip of the cap to him to get past such a humiliation.
Yeah.
I like credit where credit's due. That is some real mental toughness to be able to not just crumple and hide.
No joke, man. No joke.
Um,
A lesser ball player would have let it get to them.
like, so do I think he'll ever get past it? Like, or will it like ever go away? I mean, I think this has proven that no, it won't.
And he's already past it. It's proven that he is past it and no, it
And
won't ever
no one
go
else.
away.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was just looking at the comment section from like Joel texted us the TikTok of it.
Yeah.
And when you look at the comment section, it's like every comment is like me running to Google right now or
Yeah.
this one. There has to be a story about this somehow. LOL. No way he just said that. Laugh
Yeah.
cry emoji. Like,
Yeah.
and then the response to that from Ryan, you'll never guess what the story behind it is. Like, yeah, there's just I mean, because yeah, 4 years later, like there are adult fans who probably didn't follow baseball 4 years ago,
Yes.
right? And again, he was backup catcher on the Blue Jays.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a it's a this wasn't JT Real Muto that had a scandal. Like this is
Mm.
just, I'm sure there are other embarrassing stories for AAA catchers on other teams that I don't know about.
I like that he left that it was a Dollar Tree parking lot. He just let it be a parking lot. And I think that's respectful of him, you know?
Yes, he did
Could have
not
been a
list the address and
yes. It could have been a much classier parking lot if you've got an imagination, right?
yes, exactly. Could have been a home sense.
A home sense. Yes, exactly. A Bed Bath and Beyond parking lot, perhaps, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It'll never go away.
It'll never go away. It's funny
It
because so on the comedy scene, we won't say her last name, but she is a friend of the show, Ainsley. But she was sort of, kind of. She does this in her comedy act, by the way. So I'm not like throwing her under the bus or anything, folks. But
mhm.
she sort of, kind of had a sort of on and off relationship with Reese Maguire as this went down.
I like that you said we won't say her last name and then said her very unique first name. That
Yes. Well,
anyways.
either way, there you go. If you can hunt down the bit, good for you. But basically the bit is she talks about like him just breaking it off with her and being like, I can't talk to you anymore. I can't talk to this. And like
Mhm.
and she had no idea why. And then the next day seeing on the Toronto Sun, carjacking, right?
Yeah,
Which I don't know. Keegan Matheson says that he was the brainchild of carjacking, but he MLB.com wouldn't let him do it, so he gave it to the Sun reporter, which is
I
so
like that.
funny. He's just like, I can't use this, but someone has to.
Oh, man, that would be an all-time MLB.com headline.
Yeah, right?
What a waste. What a
What a
waste.
waste.
What a
Well,
waste.
I think that just wrapped things up in a really organic, nice way, right? Talking Reese Maguire and Dollar Tree parking lots. And that is how we'll close things out here.
There you go.
A big thank you to all of you who have followed along. If you have not subscribed to the channel, we would love it if you did. Hit the subscribe, hit that like button. It is appreciated. For all of you listening on audio, thank you so much. You can, of course, get the podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast and on Instagram, The Walk Off Podcast. Baseball Town, our live show is happening August 15th. We have Rob Wong confirmed. We've got from the Walk-Off Mariners, Juan Forno. And then we also have Scotty Mitchell of TSN. And as if that
Nice.
panel isn't good enough, there's also a maybe with former Toronto Blue Jays pitcher Jesse Litch. He's actually going to be in Toronto doing some coaching camps and said that he really wants to come down, but he's going to need to wait and see how his schedule goes. So kind of a touch and go last minute thing, but also could have Jesse Litch showing up to the show. Tickets for that I will put in the comments section. And on that, thank you so much, everybody. Take care.